So let's get started once again. Just a couple of words about Wheel and Anchor, what we're all about. For those of you who are new to Wheel and Anchor, and the vision of what this community is all about is about connection. It's about bringing travelers together. And I can tell you just a quick anecdote from this past weekend. One of our hosts of our trips, Todd, whom, if you've traveled with us before, maybe you've come across Todd. He's hosted a number of trips for us over the last couple of years. He got together with a bunch of members that were on his trips, and they went to the King's Plate, the big horse race, the oldest thoroughbred horse race in North America, this past Sunday, because people were sort of very keen on meeting up again and getting together after various trips that they've been on. So he facilitated a get together at that event on the weekend. I was blessed to be able to attend as well, and really the experience of people who have traveled, obviously on their, on other trips, not just with Wheel and Anchor, but on their own, meeting with other people that had been on trips, and what they had in common was our host Todd, and just the amount of fun and the amount of sharing and discussion about travel and so on, just for me is this constant reminder about what we're doing at Wheel and Anchor, and why we believe in this philosophy of getting people who have a like-minded perspective about travel together on some of our trips. And so we believe in fostering connections with your fellow travelers, but also with the people that we meet along the way. And many of our local guides and hosts and families that we meet along the way, members report to me that they've stayed in touch with them over the years. And so this really is sort of the difference in experiencing a country, a destination, and as opposed to just sightseeing and ticking it off the box. So that is what Wheel and Anchor is all about, and I think a big differentiator for us in the programs. Not to mention, of course, the programs themselves. We have some very cool ones. This is certainly one of them. And let me introduce. So first of all, my name is Gordon Dreger. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I curate each of these programs together with my amazing team, with whom we would not be able to do this. First of all, I'll introduce Barb, who's in the middle box there, one of our trip specialists, who's there to take your calls, get your questions answered, and get you signed up for our trips. And of course, Paula as well, who's joined us in the background today. And our special guest, I'm delighted to introduce Katerina. Good morning. Katerina is over in Athens, Greece, which is the headquarters of the company that operates these amazing ships. We've worked together for many, many years. Welcome, Katerina.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me in this webinar.
So Katerina is going to give us a few insights about Tahiti and some of the amazing places that we'll visit along the way on this trip. So we're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so exploring, by way of pictures, by way of explanation, what you can expect on this amazing trip around Tahiti, which is, or all of French Polynesia. Tahiti is just the main island and the capital. So we're going to find out a little bit about that. So without further ado, let's launch into it. First of all, as usual, looking at the map of the region, of course, Tahiti, really in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The closest land of any significance is New Zealand, which is about a 3.5-4 hour flight away. So you're, it is as exotic in location as well as in the incredible sights and the beaches and the water that you'll find there. So we will fly into Papeete, which is the capital city of French Polynesia and the principal city on the island of Tahiti itself. Of course, French Polynesia consists of a whole archipelago of an atoll of coral reefs and islands and islets and all the rest of it. Papeete, the starting point, which I'll explain about a little bit about how you get there from Canada in a moment. We'll spend the first 3 nights on land, in enjoying the island of Tahiti. We've got some tours organized down the west coast and east coast of the island. We'll then embark on our ship, the Panorama 2, that Katerina is going to talk us about, for an incredible sailing around the islands of French Polynesia, specifically the island groups of the Society Islands and the Tuamotu Islands, which you see up in the top right of the screen. And so that program will follow more or less the itinerary that's shown here. We always qualify by saying that the captain's going to go where the weather's good. So it might not follow the exact order as we lay out here, because obviously, we and the captain want to make sure that you have a great time on this trip. So we'll spend all this time at sea and then return back for a final night in Papeete before flying back home or continuing our journey from there. So let's get into the day by day. So first of all, getting to Tahiti, you're going to fly from Canada, most likely via Los Angeles and Air Tahiti Nui, which is the flag carrier of French Polynesia. There are some other routes to get there. There is another airline that flies down there called French B from San Francisco, actually. That's as of the moment. I mean, these things do change, but the most common, reliable connection over the years has been through Los Angeles on Air Tahiti Nui, and you will, as I say, do a layover in LA and then make the flight over to Papeete, which arrives based on the current schedule, and this has been the case for a while. It arrives in the morning. Early in the morning, about 5 a.m. based on this year's schedule. So we, on this trip, have actually booked the pre-night for you so that there's no delay. You will come in, you'll be able to check right into the hotel and relax. It is a bit of a long journey, as you can expect. And then you'll be on the island of Tahiti in the capital, in Papeete. We're staying at the amazing Intercontinental Resort, which is a terrific spot just outside of the principal city. And over the first couple of days before we embark on the ship, first day we're going to give you completely at leisure because it is a bit of a long trip, and with the jet lag and everything, you probably want to hang out and enjoy the amazing ocean and the beaches and all the facilities that they have in the hotel. The town itself is not far away. It's about a 10-minute taxi ride. You can hop in, and for those that are already keen on getting out and doing stuff, you'll be able to explore a little bit of the capital city. We'll do 2 days touring through the islands, focusing on both the east and west coasts of the island. And the first day on the east coast trip, some of the things that we're going to see. Well, first of all, you'll see all of these sort of volcanic formations. This is a great shot, actually, to give you a sense of what the island of Tahiti is all about, which differs quite a bit from many of the other atolls, which are mostly flat, very close to sea level. And then, they have different geologies and so on, if you will, but this is makes the island beautiful. We'll see an incredible waterfall that we'll visit. We'll find that we'll check out the Bay of Matavai, which is where Tahiti was first discovered by Captain Wallis when he landed here all those centuries ago. We'll look at the footsteps of Captain Cook and some of the other famous sailors that were on the HMS Bounty, of course, the infamous mutiny on the Bounty, which of course culminated here in Tahiti, and we'll visit an old a former leper colony, not like that anymore, and we'll also get a chance to enjoy some of the Polynesian entertainment, the dancing, and so it'll be a couple of great days on the West Coast tour. We'll spend a little bit more time focusing on the Polynesian culture. So we'll have a chance to visit the site of Arahururu, which will explain a little bit about the history of the Polynesians. They're fascinating seafaring folk that, of course, managed to cover huge distances back in the day. We'll visit some of the black beaches as well that Tahiti is known for, and as well check out their coconut plantation where they produce oil and various of other products. So we'll get a good sense over these couple of days of what the main island of Tahiti is all about. And then the next day, oh, sorry, I jumped ahead a bit. This is one of the Polynesian sites that we're going to visit in Tahiti. And then we're going to head on day 5 for our ship, the Panorama 2. Katerina, tell us all about this amazing ship. I personally have not had the chance to sail on her, but on some of her sister ships. Always had a great time, wonderful hospitality on board. Can you give us an overview of Panorama 2? She's been sailing for the last couple of years in Tahiti, yeah?
Exactly. This is our motor sailor Panorama 2, a 2-masted motor sailing boat with the 49, she can accommodate 49 passengers. She was first launched in 2004. She's 164 feet with SOLAS regulation and everything. She's renovated in 2015. And she has 24 cabins split on her 3 decks, upper deck, main, and lower. You can see now her spacious sun deck and the outdoor dining area. She has 2 dining areas, one on the lower deck, one on the main deck. This is the outdoor dining area. Offering, and this is the inside dining area.
So depending on the weather and
exactly,
and
depending
so
on the weather, yes. Dinner is, the meals are served accordingly indoors or outdoors. But mainly in the Tahiti, we have it is a very good weather, so
we'll be mostly eating outside.
Mainly, yes, mainly the outdoor, yes. Dining room is used.
Absolutely. And there's a number of there's obviously a lovely lounge on board. So if you want to get out, it's obviously tropical warm in Tahiti. So if you want to hang out and cool off a little bit in the lounge inside, there's a little library there, and always somebody around to serve you a cocktail or coffee, as it may be. So it's it's very intimate on board this vessel. As Katerina mentioned, there's a maximum of 49 guests on board. So you're always in good company. We typically will probably make up sort of between a quarter and a third of the overall people on board, depending on how many people sign up with us. This year, I think we're about a third of the vessel, which is exciting. And of course, there's 3 meals a day that are served on board: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Katerina, breakfast and lunch, I think, are buffet, if I recall correctly, yes?
Yes, breakfast and lunch are buffet, and the dinners are sitting, but there are special evenings on board where the dinners are buffet, like the welcome dinner, the captain's farewell, and the Tahitian night.
Exactly. So and those are fun events where they'll set up a grill station outside on deck, and certainly there'll be some local seafood on the menu. That's I think what a lot of folks are going to look forward to. But they have a great variety of dishes, a smattering of local, but also mixed with more European continental fare. So there's really something for everybody, and nobody ever goes away hungry, that's for sure. They also have on board some water toys. I guess there's some kayaks and paddle boards and snorkeling equipment, which is there for your use as well. I do suggest, though, if you're really an avid snorkeler, that for a trip like this, where it's such an important part, exploring the underwater marine life, is it's nice to bring your own. I like to bring my own snorkel and mask on a trip like this because, I think it's. I like my own stuff, so that's. But they do provide it all there. You can see the staterooms here. They're cozy. They range inside from about 100 to 140 square feet. And so optimal size. You're going to spend most of your time on a voyage like this outside. You know, the cabins are mostly for sleeping at night. But you know, you can curl up for sure. There's space there. You get a sense of one of the cabins here on the main deck with a window. And as Katerina mentioned, we have most of the cabins are on the lower and main deck. So whether you have a porthole or a window, it depends obviously on the deck, and it's not really that consequential to the enjoyment of the trip because, as I say, for the most part here you can see a twin cabin with a porthole. You are going to be enjoying
yes. For example, we see now a category B cabin with a porthole.
Yeah, exactly. So just to give you a taste of what the accommodations, very comfy and perfect to spend a couple of weeks or at least a week and a half anyway, touring around Tahiti and the French Polynesian islands. So we will shove off, and one of the first stops, and again, I reiterate that the order may differ on the actual trip. It all depends on the weather and sea conditions. Moorea. Tell us a little bit about Moorea, Katerina, and what are some of the highlights of this stop that we'll do?
Well, Moorea is our first stop and the first island of the Society Island we will visit. Well, see, we can see it's the highlight is the snorkeling, of course, but there are also archaeological sites and temples of pre-contact Polynesia you can visit. Also the islands of Moorea and the Magic Mountains and the Belvedere and are very interesting to be visited. Yes, we spent almost our second day or first day in Moorea, where we leave in the afternoon to our next stop.
Yeah, we'll be heading off towards Makatea in the afternoon. And I think there's two different options on this day. And this is actually a good point to mention for our trip in November of 2024. We're managing it a little bit differently than this year's trip. So we're going to provide you with a shore excursion credit that's included in the overall price, but then you can choose the type of excursions that suit you. So for example, in Moorea, we have the chance to go dolphin watching, which is always and we'll likely see dolphins all throughout the journey, but here is a special place where we're going to go with a biologist to actually look at wild dolphins and understand a little bit about their behaviors. Alternatively, we have a cultural tour as well to one of the most beautiful bays in the islands called Opunohu, where we're going to see some of the local marine life and so on as well, and visit an interesting museum. So those are the kind of options that you have to do. As Katerina mentioned, our next stop, we are going to set sail in the afternoon towards Makatea, so heading all the way up to the Tuamotu Islands. So this is a good point to mention. We're going to cross some open seas here. What's it like on board in terms of the the sea conditions? Is it, I know that some of our members might want to know, is it rough, or what are the conditions usually like?
Well, it depends on the weather, but in November the sea is calmer, so the sailing is much more comfortable for this day. However, yes, there is just a strong swell usually.
Yeah. So which means that there's generally you'll find always a gentle movement. The ship is sort of rocking because of the ocean swells. So, that's always something to know on any kind of a boat trip, because it doesn't matter if you're sailing on the Queen Mary or on, you're always going to get some movement. So that's just something to note. But part of the reason why we choose November is that it is a nicer time of the year, and you don't typically get really bad weather.
Yes.
Exactly. So when we arrive in Makatea, what we're going to find is that, and again, you're going to see different sort of geology formations on these different islands. In Makatea, is known because it has, as opposed to being a coral atoll, which is what most of them are, this one has limestone cliffs, a lot of vegetation, a lot of different birds. What else can you tell us about Makatea?
Well, Makatea was rich in phosphate and used to have 3,000 people living there and work at the mines. Today, her population is reduced to the 100 people max. So as you mentioned, it's not actually an atoll, but a raised island of coral. And give us has so significant vegetation and species of endemic birds, and we will have the option to visit the magic beaches with the rock pools and to explore an incredible grotto. Again, we are in Tahiti, so swimming and snorkeling cannot be avoided. It's a must.
Daily activity.
It's a daily, yes, one of our daily activities.
Fantastic. So we will head out from Makatea further into the Tuamotu Islands by stopping at Rangiroa, which is the largest of the atolls in this archipelago, this particular archipelago, and has a whole bunch of islets and islands. And, you know, the picture does it more justice than we can do. But what will we typically do here when we're in Rangiroa?
We can visit the Blue Lagoon, which is very interesting in snorkeling, seeing different kinds of fishes. This is the full day excursions. If somebody decides to do it, it's snorkeling again.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of snorkeling, lots of things.
Yes, lots of snorkeling.
But you'll see different things here, again, because of the makeup of the island, this being a typical coral atoll compared to, for example, in Makatea, the previous stop.
Exactly.
And whether you're a snorkeler or not, just the swimming in these turquoise waters and then going up on these soft sand beaches will be really, really an amazing experience. While we're in the Tuamotu Islands, we're also going to visit Tikehau, which, again, from the picture you can see, it's known for the pink sand. The experience that we'll have here, again, always the opportunity for snorkeling, but what other activities can we enjoy, for example, in Tikehau?
In Tikehau, give me a second.
Okay, well, I'll just jump in for you, Katerina. So in Tikehau, we have an option to visit a local family-owned fish farm, and this is not like commercial fish farms that you'll see, you know, in the Atlantic Ocean. This is really sort of small scale, but this is part of how, you know, they're able to create sort of their own sustenance, their own source of seafood, fish products from the ocean. So it's really neat. Obviously, all the stuff is taken off and sent by boat over to Papeete to the markets. We'll also see some incredible floral displays here with the hibiscus and the bougainvillea. There's a lovely little village as well that we're going to visit called Tuaherahera, which is on the south side of the atoll. Again, you get another different perspective. All these islands have their own sort of character, their own thing that separates them apart. But what they all have in common is this, you know, turquoise water, the white sand beach, you know, the palm trees in places like Huahine, which is where we'll stop the next morning. And what Katerina, can you tell us about what Huahine is famous for, or what's it the highlight of it?
Huahine is also known as the Green Island. It's divided in two parts: Huahine Nui, which is big, Nui means big, and then Huahine Iti, which means small.
Yeah.
The highly island, the highlights of the village is it's the Maeva village, which is also the Wahin. It was the home of the Tahitian royalty. So it's considered the cradle of the Polynesian culture.
Yes.
Well, this is Wahin is a tropical jungle, actually, full of coconut plantation, vanilla, banana groves, and beautiful trees, and of beautiful trees. So in the Hua Hen, you can explore the village of Maeva, which is the highlight, actually.
Yeah, it's another very interesting spot. And here again, one of the highlights is they also have the marae, which are the Polynesian statues that you'll find that have been around since over 1,000 years, well over 1,000 years, and again give you sort of some hints into what the Polynesian culture was all about. We'll spend an extra day in Wahine and have a couple of different trips that we can do. Do you want to take us through some of those programs that one can decide upon to do?
Well, there is a morning tour of the round of the village, exploring the legendary places, and these half-day tours take us to the small villages and archaeological sites.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the opportunity to visit some of the more Polynesian archaeological sites, but we'll also have a possibility to do a 4x4 trip, which will take us to parts of the island that you would otherwise not be able to get to if you didn't have a 4x4. And here there's a pottery pearl farm. So they make this pottery out of pearls that they obviously harvest from the oysters in the bay. We'll see some of the so-called fish parks around, and so this will be a little bit more of a rugged journey through some of the back roads, if you will, of Wahine. So and it'll be nice to spend 2 days in this part of the archipelago. Because most places will just be at anchor only for one night. We're then going to head over to Bora Bora. And of course, that will probably be a familiar name to you, even if you don't know exactly what's there. So Bora Bora, again, forming part of the Society Islands archipelago. This is well known for its resorts with the overwater bungalows. You can actually see one here in the photograph. What are the opportunities here to see Bora Bora, Katerina?
Well, there are various of excursions you can explore the island or visit on the village of Vaichape and shop at the local boutiques, or snorkel with the stingrays, or take a fun colorful truck to take you to the scenic tour of the island.
Yeah,
to the Mount of Otemanu.
Exactly. So the highlight of today's snorkeling trip will be the stingrays, because they have an area where they all sort of congregate. I think they're also, the guides will also feed them as well, so it attracts them over. And if you've never had the opportunity to swim with stingrays before, they are not really dangerous. I know people think about stingrays and so on because that they sting, but they're actually very friendly and very comfortable swimming around people, and it's a magical experience as these creatures they almost float through the water. And so I know I had once the opportunity to do it in the Caribbean, but I'm very much looking forward to this particular excursion, which we're going to be doing with our group this year as well, is snorkeling with the stingrays. And so and as Katerina mentioned, we'll go by 4x4 here to explore some of the historical treasures that you'll find more in the more remote parts of the island. And this is a place as well that's known for its incredible sunsets. And so we'll spend the afternoon, the later part of the afternoon, watching the beautiful sunsets. We'll have a whole other day here in Bora Bora to explore on your own, and there'll be a number of different things that you can do. I always suggest to members as well that on the free days, that you have a look around, do some research and Googling on your own, what appeals to you in this incredible tropical paradise of French Polynesia. And there's no shortage of things to do. You may just want to go and visit one of the resorts and have a cocktail out on the lanai, as it were, overlooking these incredible lagoons and the scenery and the overwater bungalows and all the rest of it. So we will then set sail once again and make our way to Taha, which is another place which, well, you can see from the picture here, they also have these overwater bungalow resorts. Here we'll have a couple of opportunities for excursions as well, Katerina, yes?
Yes, exactly. Taha is known as well as the island of vanilla. So we'll have to, what else but to explore a vanilla plantation, or have alternately have a land tour through the island and discover the famous black pearl. We can visit black pearl farms to show how these are grown and produced actually. And the next day, I don't know if you want to add something, Gordon.
Next day will be Raiatea.
We go to the nearby Raiatea, which is actually sister island of Taha. They are sharing the same lagoon. Raiatea is the second largest island of Society Islands, and here is worth exploring the Faroa River with a kayak, canoe, or visit again another bird farm in Anapa, and the archaeological site of Morea Taputapuatea and the museum.
Exactly. I think that this one in particular, I mean, we'll see the Morea in various parts of the French Polynesia, but this particular site here, which was the island was known as Sacred Island, largely because of all of these archaeological treasures. And so this Taputapuatea, Katrina, you pronounced it better than me, really is one of the best examples of an ancient site that you can explore with a temple and various other components of this place that was dates again way back into the early Polynesian era. So this is a fantastic experience, and really one of the best things that we'll save for last, if again we go according to the order of operations, if depending on the wind and the weather. Our ship will sail back into Papeete, where we will bid at that point, I'm sure, a sad farewell to our crew and to our beautiful ship that will have taken us around to see really in-depth Tahiti like you can't otherwise see other than by a smaller vessel like this. That's why I particularly like this trip and this experience. We'll have one more night in Papeete back at the Intercontinental, so that you'll have time to sort of relax and unwind and get your land legs back. And then the following day will be departure day, depending on when your flights are. Again, most will fly from Papeete out again back to LA, and then on to back home to Canada. So that is a bit of an overview of the program. I'll just give you a few of the logistics details now. Of course, all of the information is in our program itinerary, that if you have not already gotten a copy, then it will be attached to the replay of this webinar as usual. And so what we're looking at for next year, November 4th to the 20th, are the dates. of the program. Here you can see the price points of the different cabins that we have available. We have both double and single occupancy spots. There are a fairly limited number of spots for solo travelers. So if you are looking for your own cabin, yeah, best to think about it and make a decision sooner than later, because we're limited in the number of cabins that we have. You can see here, and I won't go through in detail, everything that's included in the program, notably that activity credit, $1,000 Canadian, which you can use towards the shore excursions. There's on many of the days, there's a choice of 2, in some cases even 3 different excursions that you can pick, and they will be operated, of course, subject to minimum numbers, but generally this is a pretty popular sailing. And so I think, Katerina, it's fair to say that it's usually full. And would you say that you operate most of the excursions that are offered?
Yes, we operate most of the excursions.
Yeah, so
and also the clients have the possibility, for example, in Bora Bora, or in the islands, we have we stay longer, like Bora Bora and Hawaii, to choose on which day they want to have the excursion, or which day they want to be free.
Exactly. So there's a bit of flexibility on that, and of course,
yes,
everything goes according to sea conditions, weather conditions. And this is the beauty of us. Again, another advantage of a smaller ship like this, a smaller program, is that there's more flexibility, more things that are done in the best interest of all of the guests, all of the participants in this trip. So yeah, the only thing that we will arrange for you in addition will be your airfare and air taxes, as well as, of course, cancellation insurance, which is very important. Flying over to Tahiti, you're looking at in and around this range. In fact, I was just looking for this November, and yeah, the flights are around 1,900 to 2,000 Canadian dollars return in economy class from major hubs in Canada. Air Tahiti Nui works together with Air Canada to provide fares from most major cities in Canada. So again, that's what, just for your budgeting purposes, we will have a early booking bonus available for you, and we thank Katerina and her team for working with us on that, so that if you do sign up for this trip before the middle of October, we'll give you a little bonus there of $200 a person, which is again because if we get the bookings in early, we benefit, and we pass that on to our members, of course. So now it's time to take any questions. Barb will come back on and let us know, since I cannot see my chat box for some reason. So Barb, please let us know what questions have come in from our members. Of course, you probably have a question after the webinar is over. That's not a problem. Just drop us an email to either Paula or Barb. The email address is there. Obviously, you can give us a call as well, and we'll make sure we get your questions answered. But in the meantime, let us know what questions have come in.
Yeah, and if other people have questions, they can put it either in the chat box or the question and answer box. So first thing, which is pretty common with this region, is you sort of touched on it, but the more details in terms of weather, humidity, that sort of thing.
Yeah, perfect. Katerina, do you want to give us a sense of that, about what the weather that we can expect in November for this trip?
Well, though the weather it's hot, I mean, sometimes there are rains like showers, but mainly the weather is sunny and pleasant.
Yeah, so the weather in November typically is going to be in the mid to high teens, so probably 25 to 30 degrees. This isn't, thankfully, the hottest time of the year. There is a fair bit of humidity in Tahiti. It's obviously a tropical place,
Yes.
so you can expect humidity levels that are probably 60 to 80% there. And as Katerina mentioned, you do get the occasional tropical shower that will pass through. So usually this is something that lasts for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it's gone again. And it never really gets very cool. So the temperatures, even in the evening, are not going to go below, I don't know, 20 to 22 degrees Celsius would be the coolest that you'd likely experience on this trip.
Okay, excellent. And is there air conditioning on the yacht?
Yes, of course. The Panorama 2 is fully air conditioned with individually control. Guests can control the not exactly the temperature. Can control it in their cabins.
Okay, perfect.
Exactly. So every room is temperature controlled, air conditioning in all interior spots of the ship.
Okay. And another question we also get is the engine loud or anything on that boat?
Well,
Exactly.
on small boats, the noise, the engine noise cannot be avoided, especially on the lower deck, which is not usually, but it cannot be avoided. There is some noise.
There's some noise, as with any smaller
Yes.
ship. Mostly we're moored at night when you're sleeping. And so there are days when we might set sail earlier in the morning. So maybe before you might like to get up in the morning. So you'll definitely hear some engine noise. That's kind of, as Katerina says, it's kind of
Yes,
unavoidable.
exactly.
But yeah, isn't it correct, Katerina? Mostly we're not sailing at night.
Mostly, yes, we're not sailing at night.
Exactly. So therefore you won't really be affected by it. It's only when, it's a little bit louder whenever you're anchoring, when they have to maneuver and set the anchor, and they're moving the engine on and off and back and forth at different speeds. But it's just something that you'll notice it for the first day or two. And then our feedback we've gotten is that after that, you just kind of get used to it.
Okay, excellent. So we do have a question if alcoholic drinks are included on board, if any of them are.
No, so we don't include alcoholic drinks on this particular trip. They are available, of course, from the bar. So there is a cash bar available. And obviously you can just put it on your tab and then settle any of your account at the end of the trip.
Okay. We have a question if an overnight in LA, if people want to overnight in LA, if we can arrange it.
So it's not something we would arrange necessarily, but it is a good idea to fly via LA. That's something that when you come to the point of organizing your air ticket, you can put that request in, and I believe our air partner that issues our air tickets may be able to facilitate the accommodation in LA if you need it.
Okay, and there's another question about if it's a deposit is paid initially to secure your spot and final payment is later, which, yes.
Correct.
That is true.
That's always how it works. Always a deposit up front, and we collect the final payment about 4 months prior to the trip.
Yeah. And I think there is
I see a question here about shots. If shots are required, so in other words, if a vaccination is required for visiting Tahiti, I think that's a bit individual. So there are some suggestions when visiting tropical places about various prophylactics that you can take. So we don't comment on specifically what vaccinations are required, just because we're not really supposed to as a travel company. We do provide in our additional information the links to the Canadian government travel website, where you can find a section on health, and that will list some of the things that you might want to consider. But we always prompt you to visit your physician or a travel medical clinic that can advise you on what they think that you should take. I can just speak to my own personal situation. I don't take shots for Tahiti, but again, that's a very personal decision that you need to make in consultation with a physician.
Okay, and we do have another question in
Mhm.
regards to meals, as most of the meals are going to be on board. If somebody has special dietary requirements, for example, celiac, how can that be facilitated? Is there gluten-free options? And what about eliminating cross-contamination on food?
Well, as long as we are informed about any health requirements, any dietary requirements, excuse me, from our guests, and we know it in advance, at least the latest 7 days prior, it's okay for us to cater almost all dietaries, especially
Exactly.
dietaries.
Yeah, so I think that regular dietary restrictions are generally not a problem. So certainly advise us at the time of booking. When it comes, for example, to celiac, I think then, and my sister-in-law is celiac, so I'm very, very familiar with this situation, and I think that it's with something like that, depending on how the sensitivity that one has to glutens and cross contamination, I think there are few places where they can guarantee that there's no cross contamination, and so it really depends on sensitivity. If somebody has a extremely high sensitivity to a type of food, you know, whether it's peanuts or gluten or something like that, then it's something we would really consult with Katerina and her team that operates the ship, just to determine if that's appropriate or not. But we've generally been able to accommodate pretty much any food allergies and food restrictions.
Exactly.
Good. There is a question about how much are excursions on average. I think we have a document on that. So
Yeah,
people
there is a document. It'll be included
Yeah.
with the program itinerary. We have an outline of the different excursions and the price, or at least the approximate price as of the date of publishing for those different excursions. And so I think they range from about $80 to about $250, depending on the type of excursion, sort of what's involved, and so on and so forth. So we will send that out to you, and so you will have that information before you make the decision to join us.
Yeah, so if people are actually interested in it, reach out to Paula or myself by phone or email, and then we can send you these additional information documents. And the other question that we do have is any alcohol allowed to be brought on board, like 1 or 2 bottles of wine? Is anything allowed to be brought on by travelers?
Katerina, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, I'm afraid that non-alcohol is not allowed on board due to issue restrictions.
Okay. And one other question is, if somebody has a CPAP machine, is there like an electrical unit in the cabins so that they can have their CPAP on board?
Yes, of course, there are plugs right next to the beds.
Exactly. And so the voltage on board, I think, will be 220. Is that correct, Katerina?
Exactly. It's European plugs, 220 volts. Adapters are provided on board, but it would be nice if you bring your own just in case.
Exactly. Good. How are we doing, Barb? Any other
I
questions?
think that's the main questions that have come in. And of course,
Okay, great.
people can contact us if they have other questions or want to discuss the trip at all.
Indeed. So lots of great questions. Thank you for all of those. If you do have more questions, I just see Elaine posted one more. It's a European adapter for the plugs on board. All that will be in the additional information document, as well as a lot of the other details. So do take a look through that. And of course, if you have still have a question, by all means, let us know and we'll get that answered for you. Good. Well, I just want to thank both Katerina and Barb for participating in our webinar today. I appreciate the insights about what this trip is all about. As I say, it was we're going with a full group, Wheel and Anchor members this November, and so we'd love to have you along next year in November. This is a really beautiful part of the world, and I think there's no better way to explore it than on board such an amazing motor sailor like the Panorama 2. So yeah, thank you again, and we will catch up to you on one of our upcoming webinars. We have actually no other trip webinars this week, but I know we have Japan and Greece programs for next year that are coming out next week. So stay tuned for those. And of course, everything is listed in the newsletter on Saturdays, all of the links to all of our webinars. And I'll say thank you to all of our members who came out today, and have yourselves a great rest of the day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.